Hello friends, I wanted to answer the question, why can't I feel my feelings? Okay, I had a lot of people ask me this question recently, and it's such an important question because the reality is that so many that had childhood trauma, that were maybe raised by narcissistic parents and or had a long-term adult relationship with somebody high on the scale of narcissism, at some point has felt disconnected from their feelings. And the sad reality is that when it comes to feelings, you probably know what everyone else is feeling, right? You probably have an amazing emotional radar as to what a person is feeling and what they need to feel better. But when somebody asks you what you're feeling, it's almost like, your mind goes blank. And there's a lack of ability to do that introspection and really feel connected to whatever is going on inside. In fact, a lot of people that grew up with childhood trauma or narcissistic parents felt for a long period of their life numb, maybe as if they were watching their life as if it was a movie, like they could see it, but they were somehow not connected to it. And they didn't really have that ability to feel like they were in their body, able to feel their own emotions. So with this video, I want to explain it. I want to talk about why you can be so disconnected from your emotions. I want to help you to normalize it so that you don't feel crazy, because that's what can happen. I know, because I've been there, okay? And when we don't have the understanding as to why this is going on, it's kind of like when you're physically ill and you go to the doctor and you know something's wrong, but doctor after doctor, no one finds anything wrong with you. Not knowing or not having like all the pieces to what's going on only adds to the anguish that you're feeling when you realize how much you've changed, when you look at yourself, and it's almost like you see your emotions as separate from you and you can't seem to integrate. If you don't know why and you don't understand what's going on, one, you can't fix it, right? Because we can't heal or work through what we don't understand. And two, it can further cause you to blame yourself. And I don't want that to happen. So with that in mind, let's talk about why we can often get disconnected from our feelings. A lot of complex PTSD has to do with the brain. Okay, so we have to understand these things in order to make sense of it. So let's talk about the brain when children are in their toddler years, okay? What happens to the child? So the child is learning the first 7 years of life. Everything is like a program. They're learning what's safe, what's good, what's bad, what's acceptable, what causes pain, what causes pleasure. They're learning all of that. So when it comes to feelings, let's imagine a child named Devin, okay? Devin has loving parents, and so he's playing, he's a toddler, he's doing what toddlers do, he's probably climbing on things, he's running, he falls down and he scrapes his knee. So what happens? Well, he starts to cry. He goes to his parents, and what do his parents do if they're loving, healthy people? Well, they hug him, they ask him what's wrong, right? So they listen to him, they look at the scrape on his knee, they bandage the scrape, they hug him, they console him, they make him feel better, and then within a short period of time, Devin's up and running and playing again. And in that small interaction, Devin learned that when he's hurt or feeling an emotion, right, that causes him to cry, that causes him to feel anything, he can bring it to his parents, who show that they see him, they care about him. He learned in that interaction, emotions are safe. In fact, he also learned that sharing his emotions is a positive thing. So his brain is always looking at what brings pain and what brings pleasure. And his brain learned at that moment that sharing his feelings brings pleasure because mom and dad validate it. They make him feel seen, heard, and cared about, and it's resolved and it feels good. So Devin will grow up feeling like emotions are safe, and he can share his feelings and he has no problem with that. Not many of us are like Devin, especially if you're watching my videos, you know that we didn't have that. We had the parent that if we scraped our knee and we started to cry and we went to our parent, the narcissistic parent now has to give attention to you, and if there's no audience in which to impress, right? Now, if this was publicly done, then the narcissistic parent would dote on that child and be like, oh, look at how I care about my child. But when it's done in private, the narcissist doesn't have time because he doesn't get anything, or she doesn't get anything out of it without an audience. So the parent will say something like, you know, just go figure it out, or be tough, or why are you crying, or I'm busy. Can you just, you know, go away? You're disturbing me. You're making a big deal out of nothing. And they minimize, dismiss, criticize, and sometimes even worse, the parent might spank that child's bottom for being interrupted. So now that kid learns, my feelings don't matter. Feelings aren't safe. Feelings hurt. When I share them, they hurt. And the brain is watching, right? So the brain starts noticing, oh, every time Devin shares his feelings, he's always so sad afterward. He's always feeling like the parent doesn't care. There's so much emotional pain there. That's not good. That's not good to do. So the brain is watching. That brings pain to Devin. And what it starts to do is your subconscious mind begins to formulate programs that keep you from feeling your feelings. I guess you can say that your subconscious mind starts making these programs without your conscious consent. Okay? Under the radar of your conscious awareness and without your conscious consent. And through repetition plus emotion, which is how the subconscious learns, those behaviors, like the Devin with the healthy parents and the Devin with the unhealthy parents, the repetitive way that the parent shows up to the child when they're emoting is going to make that child feel safe with feelings, or feel like feelings are equivalent to death. Because think about it, okay? For a toddler to be abandoned and rejected, their emotions to be abandoned and rejected, that toddler's like, oh my God, like I don't matter, but this parent needs to take care of me. So what do I need to do so that I matter and I'm able to survive this because I can't take care of myself? So the child starts thinking, well, I can't have feelings, but what can I do? Oh, I can do this for mom or dad. I can do that. I can be a human doing. And they then divorce those feelings. And after a long period of time of being separated from your feelings, your body doesn't remember how to give them to you. That's one thing that happens. Each emotion has a chemical signature. And if your body hasn't created that chemical signature in a long time, it's like a road or a pathway that hasn't been traveled and now it's overgrown. Well, the neurons in your brain, they don't even see it anymore to give you that emotion. And they give you other things like numb, disconnection, dissociation. The path to those is very well worn because your brain rewired to keep you safe. On top of rewiring to keep you safe, it has rewired with trauma-induced people-pleasing. In other words, you feel this urge to do and please others as if your life depended on it, as if your value and worth depended on it, because that was the program that was brought about when you were a toddler. And then through repetition plus emotion, it was ingrained in you. And some of you might be like, okay, but I'm an adult now. Like, you know, that was when I was a kid. I get it, but I'm not with my narcissistic parents anymore. Why can't I just start feeling? And that's when you have to really understand complex PTSD. The behaviors that became coping skills as a result of the emotional trauma, they changed your brain, right? They changed how you think. They changed the parts of your brain that you spend the most time in. And on top of that, your subconscious remembers everything. And when you're trying to break out of those behaviors now and you're trying to feel, guess what happens? Your subconscious reminds you of the pain that was felt in childhood when you tried to have a feeling and express it. And it sends such an overwhelming sense of emotion, of negative emotion through your body, that it makes it so hard to allow yourself. Notice the word allow. It's almost like we lost the ability to allow ourselves to feel. And that's what an emotional flashback is, right? So In childhood, feeling was horrible and it caused so much pain. So in adulthood, you might want to have a feeling, you might want to connect to a feeling, and your brain sends you just a jolt of what it felt like in the past. And that pain and that abandonment, that heavy shame that came up in childhood when you were emotionally abandoned, comes up in your body and you shut down again, you disconnect and you dissociate. So it's challenging. It's challenging to work through the side effects, and logic alone. Just because we learned this doesn't mean that, okay, now I know, therefore all is resolved. No, learning is the first step. We need to understand and learn about these things, but then we have to take the time to rewire the brain, to rewire the neural pathways to the emotions that we want to have. We have to find that path back to self. And that takes time. The good news is that if you experience a disconnection from self, you're not crazy. You're not a bad person. Your brain actually was doing what it thought was best to protect you and keep you safe. And at the time, it was a help. But now it's maladaptive, and now it's time to reconnect with self. And if you're on this journey and you feel like you've been on it for a long time and you're not seeing the results as fast as you want to see them, make sure you check out the Thriver School of Transformation, because we talk about all of this and we learn ways how to put it into practice in our daily lives. We meet live weekly with people all over the globe, and you're more than welcome to join us if you feel that you need a little bit more than the videos can provide.